Welcome to the 7 Cents Podcast, where we go beyond dollars and cents to unlock the mindset beyond the money.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mike Macklin, aka Money Mike, the financial Thanos, because I'm snapping my fingers and I'm turning your financial problems to dust.
And I'm Coach RL, your money mindset coach. Mind right, money right, legacy locked in.
Guys, this is not your average financial podcast. We're breaking down money myths, mindset traps, and economic game plans.
We keep it real, raw, and relevant, from micro money moves to macro financial shifts.
This is a 7 Cents podcast where your mind meets your money.
Hey, we are back with another great episode. At least I think so. In my head, I already anticipated being a great episode. I think we usually have good conversations. I am here with Money Mike Macklin, the financial Thanos. And we are about to do what we like to do all the time, piss people off a little bit and give them something to think about. What's going on, Mike? How you doing, man?
Slow motion, man. You know what I'm saying? Out here living the dream, brother.
Hey, so you know me, I dive right in. All right, so I was just doing a little research from a business perspective and, just entrepreneur stuff. I was doing some research and then I was like, all right, what percentage of people actually commit to things or are action takers? And I was trying to figure that out. I looked and it was just a number of statistics and the number is 8%. 8% of people are willing to commit to a change or something new. I found that to be like a baffling number because you see people all the time say, yeah, I need to do that. I need to make a change. I need to. So I'm trying to figure out in 8%, like, I think we as people have a huge commitment issue. We have a huge commitment issue. So I want to talk in this episode today about commitment and accountability. So just right off top, Mike, I'm going to just ask you, at what point in your life, because I think you're an 8%er, right? At what point in your life did you see fit to make a commitment? What made you make a commitment? And then was it a long time before you made a decision to leap into whatever it is that you wanted to do? Or did you kind of drag your feet into it and check some blocks? How did you get into that from the 92 to the 8%?
Okay, so for me, it was almost like an evolution thing. Like for me, like evolution happens because of necessity. Any change is because of necessity. Like the environment changes, something changes around you to where it becomes necessary for something to change. And for me, I think what made it necessary to change was awareness. And what I mean by that is coming up in the military. I was in the military for 20 years. In case you haven't watched any of our episodes, I talk about this all the time. I was in the military for 20 years as a financial management technician. That was the last thing that we were called before I retired from it. And you would think being in that field that I would have a better knowledge of money, but it wasn't until I actually retired from that job and started reading. I started reading a lot more, and my reading made me become much more aware of, as I call it, the right side of the money. Robert Kiyosaki talks about, the cash flow quadrant and everything like that. And the right side of the money is the business owners and the investors. And the more that I started finding out how that side of the money operates, that's when I realized I have to change the way that I approach money. Now, initially, I had the attitude of, as long as I'm paying my bills and I'm, got some money in savings, that I'm doing okay. But then once I realized how the right side of the money actually makes their money, I said, dude, I have to get on the other side because this is ridiculous. And what I mean by that is, like we talking about the 8%, on the right side of the money, only 5% of the people are over there. 5% out of everybody is on that side of the money. And once I realized the difference in just how it works, the difference of how much you can bring in, the level of competition on that side versus the wrong side of the money, I said, dude, get on the right side of the money. It only makes more sense. And that is what made me pull the trigger. Once I realized what it actually looks like on that side versus the side I was on, I was like, oh, hell no, I got to get off this side immediately. There was no pause. There was no delay. There was no, oh, let me think about it. Once I realized that the money is on the right side, I said, no, I'm gone, because I didn't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. And once I realized where the money actually is, I said, no, I'm going on that side.
No, that's real, man. I would say for me, that's and you brought up some good points, right? Like sometimes you get new information and you realize, hey, I gotta make this work for me. I think a big part of because I'm very analytical and I know a lot of things that stop me is not having all of the information. And
Hmm.
then when I get all of the information, trying to figure out what's the first step to actually take. Right? So
Right.
I know, that's why when I like create manuals and if I'm creating a free guide, if I'm creating anything, the first thing I do is look and say, hey, I can't finish this without giving the person an actionable task. Because if I don't say, all right, now do this, then I
Right.
led them to nowhere. I gave them actually no information. I gave them a bunch of information with no action to be taken. I just set you up to stay in the 92%. But for me, the thing that changed me, you see how my mind works. I just feel like I knew I was going to answer my question, but I was holding on. This is all a setup. This is a setup.
All right.
Man, and then excuse me for moving around. I'm just trying to get my hip right out and putting the right pillow down. And so I'm moving like a madman. What made me go from the 92% to the 8% really is finding that first action and step, right? I think it wasn't until I read Atomic Habits where I realized that was the most important thing to do is recreate habits because at the end of the day, that's what people are fighting against. They're not fighting
Yeah.
against their thoughts. They're fighting against comfortability and the monotony of what it is that they were doing every day. And I can remember this is probably like 2016, 17. And my wife was operating a business, but she was doing a lot of traveling. She was traveling with the kids and in travel, operating a business. But then we had this big ass beautiful house. The kids were breaking all this stuff in the house. I was like playing hand and foot. Had a car. The car was breaking down. Great getting the car, and then I'm struggling. But
Hmm.
she's like going on these luxurious vacations, and I'm like, "Hey, look, lady, like this is if I'm sucking, you should be sucking too." And and then we kind of got into it. And then I basically said, hey, I kind of put up and I say put my foot down. But I just drew a line and say, we need to do something about this. And if we don't do something about this, then we're gonna have to go our separate ways because this is not gonna work for me. And the part where I realized that sometimes you just be fucking talking and you don't know what you're talking about. And she said, so what should we do? And I didn't have an answer.
That's the worst place to be when in that
Then
argument,
yeah,
when you don't have an answer.
have an answer. Like when somebody yields to what you're saying and say, okay, so then what's the solution? And you didn't have a solution. You just yapping at your mouth and you had a problem. And so I see that in everybody was, hey, I'm broke. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. But the solution exists. That's the one thing
Oh yeah.
about this is the solution exists. The thing that triggered to me is I knew what I wanted when she said, what do you want? I laid all of it. I want to be able to do this. I want to go on a trip too, but I don't want to have to compromise fixing the car to go not go on a trip. I had all of the things that I wanted. And then she said, okay, so what do we need to do? It's the actionable step that
Yeah.
was the difference. And then from that moment on, I learned if I approach any problem, automatically I'm thinking of solutions and the first step because
Yeah.
the first step is the one that matters the most because that's going to get you the momentum. No matter how many times you get pushed back, as long as you got that first step, because it's the first step puts you beyond commitment, right? But I mean, that probably was the thing that set me apart in my thought process of how I get to the other side. And again, I'm still working on it. Let's kind of transition into accountability, right?
Okay.
So the commitment is hard, and the commitment is hard is because you need that first and actionable step. What was really challenging for that actionable step is sometimes you need to be coached through that actionable
Yeah.
step. From your perspective as a finance coach, why do you think it's so important to have an accountability partner? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the coach, but again, that's our profession. What we do is we are accountability partners to our clients. But why do you feel like the accountability is so important when you're trying to go from that 92% to that 8% of actionable people?
I think the accountability partner and the value in that is that person, or I mean, if it's yourself, it's the part of you that keeps you honest. It looks at the situation for what it is. And That's what accountability really is. It's like a sense of honesty about, a particular situation or action or whatever. And how that partner helps you is that it exposes the reality. A lot of times we are in a place where we don't really see the reality. And this could be because of the people that's around us, because a lot of times we choose people to be around us that make us feel good instead of that actually, challenge us to be better. And so when you find that accountability partner, when you find that person that actually says, hey, listen, I'm going to expose some things about you that you may not like. That's an important step in that process, is seeing the
100%.
reality of it, is seeing the reality. And too many of us, we're living in this world of, it's not real. You're not looking at the real picture. You're looking at what you would like it to look like. And I'm gonna nerd out a little bit. I'm gonna take your thing here. I'm gonna nerd out a little bit.
Cool.
And what it really boils down to is a psychological thing. I think they call it the ego, like the person that you want to present to the world versus who you really are.
That's exactly
And
what I wrote down. 30 seconds before you just said it, I just wrote down ego, pride and ego.
yeah, yeah. And that's what it really boils down to. You want to present yourself a certain way to the world when in reality, you are somebody else. And what you have to do, and what that accountability partner can do, is help you expose who you really are. And some people may take offense to that. Some people may feel some kind of way about being put out there like that. Okay, this is who you really are. But I feel like we was just talking about that important first step. I think that is one of the important first steps, is you have to see the reality. And sometimes that comes from somebody else outside looking in on your situation and saying, hey, look, you're not living up to your potential. And I'm going to use myself as an example in that. I've had a number of people say that to me in the past. Is, okay, you're playing too small. You're not living up to your potential. What are you so afraid of? I've had people really come at me like that. And that was almost like the first step, having somebody come at me and say, hey, dude, like, this ain't the best you can put out there. This, you think it too small, and that is what the accountability partner does. I think is that person gives you that push that you need sometimes to make that first step. Maybe you would have never made that first step if that person hadn't exposed you for who you really are and say, hey, listen, do something.
Hey, now I'm gonna tell you why this is good. The part about the ego, and again, I wrote it down. Pride and ego is one of those things that really is a trap. It's a
Yeah.
mental trap because
Yeah.
you've done enough things to pacify yourself to believe that you're okay where you are. Your accountability partner, and this is the other thing, because sometimes in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I know I need to do better. I
Yeah.
should be doing better. But you pacify yourself to be where you are because you're comfortable where you at. I've done enough. The accountability partner comes in and says, it gives you the reality check. Like, I heard you say you want to be here. You being here is not good enough. Now let's identify what this actually is, and everybody can see it. Now let's go. And it is. I think it's unique when you have a accountability partner like on the same level, but it's much more beneficial to have somebody who's already walked the path, right? Already walked the path. Like all of my mentors, all my millionaire mentors, they tell me, oh my goodness, you don't know how many things that I've avoided, not freestyling, being scared to not know the answer when they just give me all the answers. Do this, don't do this. That's like the best part of having mentors, man. My mentors have stopped me from doing silly shit. And I promise you, they probably saved me thousands of dollars just in conversation, because the game that I'm getting is like unmatched when it comes to where I want to be. And they also call me on my bull.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of my mentors, is they call it how they see it. And I can't take offense to it because I did do that.
Yeah.
I did do that, and you're right. But that's the best part about having that accountability partner is, and I was going to save that for the next segment, but it's kind of perfect where it is right now. Going with the pride and the ego is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times you are afraid for people to see you naked, and not like in a physical sense, but it's more like in really your ego. Nobody wants to see, you don't want anybody to see your ego naked.
Yeah.
You don't want anybody to see your insecurities. You don't want anybody to see you bullshit and procrastinate. You don't want to see, because the one thing, and I still can't figure this out, is why somebody can be good at something for a long time and never get better. I don't,
Mm.
I say that like this, like the person who's, man, I've been working at Toyota for 25 years, never had a different position, never got promoted, and they're good with that. But they're good at where they at. And I just, my mind couldn't fathom it. Again, like I said, the Army is an amazing job for me because I can't fathom doing anything more than 2 or 3 years before I get bored, let alone 20 years.
Yeah.
And of course, it has to be impactful. Now, I imagine there's probably is people that have like very impactful jobs, but do more. My wife told me one of the most important things the other day, and she probably got it out of a book or she got it from her heart. I don't know where she got it from, but it was complex words. Let me count these out. 7 words. So she said these magnificent 7 words to me. The universe is not on a budget. And I said, whoa, the universe is not on a budget. If you can go out and get anything that the universe has to offer and the universe is not on a budget, that means your mindset is limiting what you can get out of the universe. And your accountability partners being able to see that and saying the world has more for you or you have more for the world kind of pulls you out of that. But it's hard because you think you're good where you at. People don't like to see you. I mean, you don't like people to see you naked. What's crazy is, my bad, Mike, I'm going down a rabbit hole now.
Cook, man. You know, look, we do this every week, man.
Every time,
Bro,
every
go ahead
time.
and cook, man.
Yeah, and that's why I say, hey, you need to have a script because if you don't stick me into a 2-minute window, something's going to trigger. But this is one of those things like the way you don't want people to see you naked. And I say see you naked in a sense like the kind of like the biblical term of, you know, when Adam and Eve found out that they were naked after they committed the sin, right? It's in humans today it is a very natural feeling when you are just naked in front of a stranger, you get a feeling. Some of us people like it. So some people they completely shut down. It just depends on it, who you are. But at the end of the day, that feeling is the same feeling when you are uncomfortable about what you have. If you're uncomfortable about it, fix it. But again, the next question is, how do I do that? And then the next thing is an actionable step. But what do you think is probably the most seamless approach for someone who is on the fence about changing and they want to change? What would you recommend they do?
The very first thing that I would tell somebody to do is you have to look at the price of not doing it. I would say, look at the price of not doing it and then look at the price of doing it and see which one is more expensive, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever. And it's funny because I heard a quote kind of similar to that. Just, what is it? If you think the price of taking a risk is too high, then imagine the cost of regret, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I've seen this so many times in my own life. I like to use myself as an example because I don't want people to think that I get on here and am a holier than thou person. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable. I do just as much bad stuff as the average person does. Like I'm no different than, and I feel like that's what allows me to come from the perspective I do because I know what y'all thinking because it's in my head too. But I say all that just to say that you just have to understand that price of doing nothing is so much more expensive than to just try it. You know what I'm saying? Forget about how somebody feels about your move. And that's another thing I guess I'll segue into as well is stop waiting on somebody else's permission to do something. You know what I'm saying? Nobody in this world is without the ability to make a choice. Nobody can really physically stop you from doing something that you want to do when it comes to things. Like nobody's going to tie you down to a bed and say, okay, you're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And if they try, let them try. But the whole point is, and I use that to get out of the emotional part of it because so many people, it's the emotion that stops them. It freezes them. You know, and you talked about it earlier when people say, I know I want to do something. Or I know I need to do something. But for whatever reason, they let that emotion take over logic. And a little bit about me, I am more logical than emotional. I feel like emotions don't have a lot of places in things. Again, this is me because of the spectrum of emotions that I've experienced in my life. I feel like a lot of them, they stop you from doing what you know that you're really supposed to be doing. Like when you really sit down and look at something from a logical standpoint, it really like just it makes everything that you thinking aside from that just not make sense. It's like you'd be like, just the stupidest thing ever. Like, for instance, not taking that first step is if you know in your heart of hearts, let's use money for an example. If you know in your heart of hearts that you are broke, you are spending way more money than you should, and yet you still continue to do that. Come on now. It was just stupid. There's no logical reason to do that. But because of you letting emotions creep in like pride, fear, confusion, you let emotions, which are, to me, they're not based in reality. Most of the time, emotions are perceptions of something. It's not a reality. And so when you start looking at things from a place that's not even realistic, it defies any sense. And it just, because I'm so logical, that's why it irks me. Because I'm just like, okay, why? Don't tell me nothing other than like the actual reason. But if you tell me, oh, because I'm scared, oh, because I'm like, okay, that don't even make sense. You're not gonna get sympathy from me from that, because I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, why? And it irks me when I hear people, like, because I hear so many of these conversations. I want to, be financially independent. I want this, that, and the third. But then it's like, you don't want to do nothing. So I'm like, okay, so why even say that you want that? If you don't want that, guess what? It's okay. If you don't want it, like, it's all right. Don't do it. But don't bitch and complain when stuff start happening that you don't want to have happen. I think I've said this before. I tell my daughters this all the time. I'm like, listen, in life, go do what you want to do. I don't care what it is, as long as you're okay with what comes with it. Like, if you okay with what comes with it, then do it. Don't think about it. Don't sit there. Oh, I want to know. If you sat down and said, okay, boom, I want to do this. This is what could happen. I'm all right with that. Then go. And that's realistically, I feel like that is what really answers that question that you asked me is, okay, if you look at that situation, you look at the step, and if you're okay with what comes with that, then go. Don't think about nothing else. If you said in your mind, all right, this can happen, I'm okay with that, then just go.
No, I love that because so one point is always make, and we could be sitting down with a client, and then of course I always say, oh, so it's going to cost you this amount, and they say, I don't think I can afford that amount, and I said, based off of our discussion, I don't think you can't afford to not have me. If
Absolute
you can't
truth.
afford me, you can't afford to not have me. And so that's what that reminded me of. Guys, like my famous line is, I don't think I can afford that. And it sounds like you need to afford me. You
Exactly.
can't
That's
afford
all
me,
the more
you need
reason
to afford
that
me.
we should be working together, because if you can't
Exactly.
afford this, then that means you have a problem. You need to fix it.
Absolutely. You can't afford to not have me at this point. I love it though. I love giving people a new perspective of thought. I think it is really important that you just mentioned is that people do have to commit to their consequences. That's what I like to say. You got to commit to your consequences, because if you've done all of the thinking through, you know what's going to happen. There's a chance that something else might happen. But my wife, she brought up another point to me the other day is when you start to think too hard and you commit to these other dimensions of your thoughts, now you've created space in the universe for too many dimensions. So you need to commit. And if you start thinking about all of this, if, wish, coulda, shoulda, woulda, now you've opened up these. Basically, it's, I try to not to sound crazy, but now you just open up these portals in a universe that's
Yeah.
taking up more energy than it needs to, or in the universe. And then you start to take away energy from where you're actually going. So, like, moral of the story is, like, you have to commit to your consequences. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in limbo. And then what limbo look like to us in this whole discussion is just the 92%. You're going to be in the 92%, the shoulda,
Yep.
woulda, coulda. Commit to your consequences. And that's the other part of that too, right? If you can't afford me, the consequences that you either need to get a coach that is in the affordable range, or you can just keep doing the same thing. But you need to commit to that. You can't say,
Yeah.
I need the coach, but I can't afford him. You either need the coach or you don't. Like, the afford part is the roadblock. And that's when we talk about roadblocks, you need to get beyond that roadblock. All right. So as a coach, or I don't say remove coach, new hat salesman. As a salesman, I could remove some things out of the package and make it work for you financially. But if you really wanted it, those are questions you would be asking me. Why would I have to sell you on something that you need? Sometimes that part doesn't make sense to me, but it does, because people are talking themselves out of something that they want, which is crazy. Why are you talking yourself out of something that you want? At some point, you got to realize, like, you're mind tricking yourself. You know what you want, you understand the consequence, you know what the commitment level looks like. Someone's giving you the first step, and the first thing you start doing is talking yourself out of committing to it. Now, again, that's a level of fear, and I've probably said this about 50 times. The level of fear isn't the fear of failure, because if you fail, you're going to be at where you was, and that's not where you want to be. But it honestly was comfortable for you. But the fear of success is the one thing that's unknown, that is mind blowing to people, and they cannot get past that barrier. But I really think that having an accountability coach is a person that can really talk you off the ledge when you get to that point. I really do want to like not beat the dead horse, but at the end of the day, like there is 8% of people that exist that are ready to take action. There are 92% of the people in the world that are going to be dancing in limbo with wanting to change or not wanting to change and not feeling like they need to be better. But I just encourage anybody who's like on the fence and want to jump into that 8%, just commit to your consequences. Commit to your consequences. Hey, so before we close, man, I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you're working on in the Green Order?
Right now, I've just actually started the Green Order Inner Circle, where this is a private Facebook group. It's absolutely free to join. Realistically, this episode is right on time because what we do in the Green Order Inner Circle is almost like you have those accountability partners in this place. We discuss financial issues, we discuss, steps, we discuss tips, things like that. This is a safe place that you can come and you can ask those questions and you can be vulnerable and talk about what it is that you're trying to do, and realistically come to a community of people who are looking to get to that next level and have those discussions. And maybe somebody in that group gives you that valuable first step to say, okay, yes, I've been in this place too, and this is what I did to get out of that. And that's what made me actually start that community, is because I want there to be a safe place for people to come with these situations, come be vulnerable, be naked, obviously in a, not a physical sense, but obviously I don't know what the term literal versus, whatever, but come be naked, say what you got to say. And it's a no judgment place. It's okay. This is where you come to fix this problem, and be prepared to have an answer. You may not like the answer, but you're going to get the answers that you're looking for. So if you're at all interested in something like that, then I would encourage you to join the Green Order Inner Circle. We'll put the link in the description, and hey, come, it's free. It costs you nothing. So the risk is off the table.
I love it. I love it. Hey, so over here at the GOAT Legacy, we just released a new free 7-minute wealth guide. You can't beat free, but I can promise you what you can't get is a bunch of information in 7 minutes. And there's, you know me, no gatekeeping. And we talk about creating, and I talk about creating guides, books, references, resources. This book, 7 minutes, I give you 25 actionable tasks to do to get there. 25 actionable tasks. There's no thinking about nothing. I took out all of the fluff. Hey, if you want to do this, if you want to do this, if you want to do this, like actionable tasks, go get a brokerage account. These are the brokerage accounts that I recommend. Go open one up. Like, it is to the T. So go to yourmoneygoat.com/wealth and get your free guide. It's that simple. 7 minutes. You're going to learn a whole lot in 7 minutes. Truly appreciate you, brother. Thanks for jumping on. This was an exciting one for me because, again, I wrote a blog about it. If you want to read the blog, go to yourmoneygoat.com/blogs, and it is the featured blog of the week on my site, and you are more than welcome to read it. But yeah, I was writing this blog, and it just triggered me like how do I get these other 92% of people to at least see that they are playing themselves? Stop playing yourself. But definitely appreciate the conversation, bro. Before we close out, you have any closing words?
You pretty much said what I wanted to say, and that's just, when you're looking to take that first step, once you understand the consequences on either side, accept them and go forward. Because like Rob said, worst case scenario, you end up in the same place you was before. And guess what? Okay, you only got one way to go from there, and that's up. So keep pushing forward. We always going to be here to guide you, coach you, and mentor you. So make sure you guys subscribe to this channel, follow both of us because we both got unique perspectives on financial literacy and life in general. And let's get you guys to the next level.
All right, till next week. Y'all take care.
You just tapped into the 7th Sense, where the mind meets the money and the legacy gets built.
It's your boy Money Mike, the financial Thanos, snapping one myth at a time and leaving no financial lies standing.
And I'm Coach RL, mind right, money right, legacy locked in. If today's episode gave you game, make sure you rate, review, and share it with someone.
Hey, follow us on all platforms and keep the conversation going, guys. DM us your questions, your myths, and your money wins.
Until next time, think deeper, move smarter, and keep building.
This is the 7th Sense Podcast. We out.